I scoured the library and the internet to find a whole bunch of witchy books across different genres. Quite a few of these books, though they're not strictly romance books, there are romances throughout. To be transparent, most of these I haven't read. I wanted to compile a list of books that interested me and that I thought might interest you, including some witchy adjacent books which aren't strictly about witches but have a similar feel and vibe to them. Let's start with middle grade. We're starting with a graphic novel duology, which I have read, Garlic and the Vampire and Garlic and the Witch by Bree Paulson. In the first book, we meet Garlic, who is a very anxious little character who has to step up and be brave when a vampire is found near her town, and only Garlic can defeat vampires, right? In the second book, we get to know a bit more about where Garlic came from. Quick to read, heartwarming, and kind of funny too. Next, we have the Hedge Witch series by Skye McKenna. There are going to be 5 books in the Hedge Witch series, and currently there are 4 released, with the last one coming out next year. I've been wanting to pick this up. It follows the story of Cassie, who runs away from boarding school into the forest. She escapes her magic village where children have gone missing with the help of a cat and a flying broomstick. And of course, you know, she's got to learn some witchcraft to save the day. The next book is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. It's the story of a witch who lives in a forest, and the local people think that she's an evil witch. Each year the village offers the witch a baby, thinking that it will protect them from her wrath. What they don't know is that she's not a bad witch. The witch feeds the girl moonlight by accident, giving the young girl named Luna powers that she has to control and harness. Adventurous, hopeful, and mysterious. Next, we have a 4-part series called A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. It follows 3 trapped sisters, an ancient family curse, and 3 magical objects with the power to change their fate. A light-hearted fantasy story exploring sisterly love and defiance. Now onto some young adult. My first recommendation is one that I read earlier this month, which is Coven by Jennifer Dugan and Kit Seaton. This was a really fun ride. It's a graphic novel with very interesting colours, giving some Twilight vibes. It follows the story of Emsie, a young witch forced to leave her beachside home when danger comes knocking for her family and her coven of witches. Her family up and move closer to the rest of their coven, most of whom she's never met before, and she's not happy about it. This follows her journey of learning to adapt to her new surroundings, learning to harness her powers instead of hiding them, and unraveling the mystery of who is attacking members of her coven and why. This has a strong mystery element as well as found family. It's a bit like Charmed meets Avatar in some ways because most of the powers are elemental. I really enjoyed this one, and it's a standalone, but I almost wish it was a series. Next, we have The Witch Haven by Sasha Payton Smith. I started reading this last year and DNF'd it not because I didn't enjoy it, but because I just wasn't in the mood for a witchy book at the time. It's 1911 in New York City, and 19-year-old Frances Hallowell is working as a seamstress, but that's not her only set of skills. This has a very fast-paced beginning because in the first few chapters you find out that her brother is dead and there's some mystery surrounding what happened to him. We meet a love interest. Something happens where it's revealed that she has some sort of powers and she's whisked away to the Witch Haven, a school for witches. Obviously we're going to have tension of good and bad and her coming to terms with her new powers and probably finding out what happened to her brother. This was very easy to read as well, so would recommend based on what I got to so far. Next, we have The Bone Witch by Rin Chipico. This book is recommended for people who enjoy reading dark, mysterious, intense kind of fantasy. The story follows a witch who accidentally resurrects her family from the dead. Turns out this witch has the gift of necromancy, unlike all the other witches that she knows, making her a bone witch. These next few within the young adult category fit more into romance and fantasy, a bit of romantasy vibes. Next we have a duology called The Crimson Moth about a witch who falls in love with a witch hunter. The witch in this story actually is a witch vigilante trying to protect others of her kind from the witch hunters who she ends up falling in love with, so I can see why that would be a bit awkward. Enemies to lovers, forbidden love, tension, fast-paced, high stakes. This is actually the second book, by the way, just take note. The next book on the list is Wicked Deep. Centuries ago, two sisters were sentenced to death as their punishment for witchery. For a brief time each summer, the two return from the dead from the depths below, luring boys into their harbour for revenge, much like sirens in Greek mythology. But not all will go to plan when they meet a certain young boy. Next we have the Blood-like series by Lascelles Sambry. The first book is called Blood-like Magic, for readers drawn to dark, emotional urban fantasy, in which a young witch has to choose between family loyalty and cursed first love. This one also gets a mention of being enemies to lovers, but seems more slow-paced than something like The Crimson Moth. The next book, I didn't know whether to put it in this category or in Witchy Adjacent. It seems more superpowery rather than potiony, and it is Forged by Blood by Ehigbo Okusan. The main character Demi's homeland has been colonized and she is fighting against a genocide of her people. This features kidnapping the enemy prince, going on a quest with her childhood best friend, and danger and deadly secrets. I don't know much more about this than that, but I have a feeling that there's going to be, similar to Shadow and Bone, maybe a bit of a love triangle between the main girl and the enemy and then her childhood best friend. Even though basically everything with witches is obviously some sort of fantastical, these are in their own little category. One just came out this month, and it is Modern Divination by Isa Agajanian. This book's main character is a young woman whose green magic is slowly fading, which may or may not be as a result of her keeping its secret hidden from all. Dark academia vibes and a slow burn, enemies to lovers, or at least rivals to lovers. More character dynamic based than action-packed and fast-paced. This one I'm really interested in. Next, we have a straight up fantasy, which is Ever Blessed by Olivia Flynn. We've got warrior princesses, arranged marriages, powerful gods, and a witch desperate to conceal her powers. Very conceal, don't feel, don't let it show. I don't think I've read any of Juliette Marillier, but I feel like she is the fantasy queen because she has put out so many books that I've seen online that have really dreamy covers and interesting premises. One of these is her book Dreamer's Pool. It's a slow burn romantic fantasy. Think mystery, ancient forests, quiet character bonds, and folklore-based magic. All in a story about a young woman who has put aside her quest for vengeance instead to fulfill her duty of helping anyone that asks for it. And I'm not sure if that's a magic-based deal or what, but it's intriguing nonetheless. I'd say this seems like a more traditional high fantasy witchy story. Next is a book that I've been seeing trending online a lot, and it is The Spell Shop. Low stakes cozy fantasy set in another world about a girl who's always had some trouble relating to others, so she's chosen to work in a library and hasn't had to deal with that. Until, of course, something changes and she does have to deal with that. It's about this character breaking down her inner walls to let others in. Next is the House Witch series, which is about a male witch for something different. It's a cozy domestic fantasy series about a male witch who uses his powers to serve the royal household their dinner. We have romance, hidden identity, fascinating characters, courtly intrigue, a dash of politics amongst the magical hijinks. I feel like this is what you get if you take contemporary cozy romance and put it in a more fantasy setting. Another fantasy that's a little more fairy tale based is the Book of Gothel. Of course, Gothel is the witch in the story of Rapunzel, but this book is told from the perspective of Gothel herself. A lush historical retelling filled with dark magic, crumbling towers, mysterious woods, and evil princes to change it up a little bit. As someone who loves a dark fairy tale or fairy tale retellings when they're done well, this sounds up my alley and I want to find out where I can get it from. Our next book is One for My Enemy, which is like if you had Romeo and Juliet set in New York City with rivaling witch families. Will love conquer? Or will the characters meet the same star-crossed lover ending as Romeo and Juliet? This one's meant to be on the darker side. Now onto some horror. First, a book that I own, which is Slewfoot by Brom. This has some really creepy but beautiful illustrations. Just to give you an idea. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood, The wild folk call him Father, Slayer, Protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, Demon, Devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. I haven't seen it, but it kind of reminds me visually of that movie with Anya Taylor-Joy, and makes a deal with the devil. Nice chapter headers too. Another horror is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. This book also features a young woman living within a Puritan society, and she discovers the dark powers within herself. This is a dark feminist fantasy and explores the tension between forbidden power and oppressive faith. And there are 2 books in that series. Next we have Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slater. This is like a haunted gothic fairy tale with ghosts, witches, deadly secrets and past sins, about the first non-witch to be born into a witch family. This features a lot of sinister family secrets. Another book that I've heard great things about is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. Many people compare it to Gilmore Girls but make it cozy, witchy, and yet it's also horror. It's about newly single Annie, who is brokenhearted until she gets a new job at a quaint little village where she befriends a mysterious woman who encourages her to own and harness her inner power. Another horror book that came out this year is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I haven't read Grady Hendrix, but I've seen the name popping up everywhere. Wayward Girls refers to young women and girls who are sent to a special house because they are unwed young mothers who must give up their babies and are hidden away from society and are then to forget it ever happened, which is very real and not fantasy. Set in the 1970s and follows the story of young girl Fern, who meets about a dozen other girls in the same predicament as her. Their life in the house is very strictly controlled, but Fern meets the librarian who gives her this strange book, and for the first time she feels power in her hands. The next category are a few contemporary books, definitely featuring romance as well. This next book's title is a mouthful. It is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. Cozy, contemporary, warm and witchy. An uplifting novel about an isolated witch whose opportunity to embrace a quirky new family and a new love changes the course of her life. The main witch in this book has had to hide her magic for a long time until she enters this secret society and gets to actually explore her magic properly for the first time. This has been popping off for the last year or 2. Next we have Orphan Witch by Paige Crutcher. The main character Persephone was abandoned as an infant and dragged through the foster care system. She wants to belong, but she's always been an outcast and never been fully accepted. And after an accidental display of her power, she has to move on in her life yet again. But she gets in contact with an old friend and then her life seems to take a turn. For better or worse, we will see. This features 100-year-old curses, family feuds, and maybe finally a home as well. This last contemporary book also features some magical realism, and it is The Inheritance of Orchidea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. This book features inheritance and of course family, and it is very helpful that it has a family tree inside. The stars have shifted, the earth has turned, the time is here, I am dying, come and collect your inheritance. The story follows the death of Orchidea Divina, matriarch of this family. However, when she dies, it actually leaves the family with more questions than answers, especially considering she turned into a tree. But soon, a hidden figure starts to pick off members of the family one by one. Will it bring the family together or tear them apart? Next is historical fiction, of which I have a stack. I'm going to start with a book I have read a few times, and it is one of my favorite books ever, Circe by Madeline Miller. In Greek mythology, Circe was the original witch. She featured in the Odyssey when Odysseus and his men pulled up on her island, and she didn't enjoy that they were there, and as consequence turned them into pigs. That does feature as one of the parts within this book, however, it is not the main part. We follow Cersei throughout her immortal life, how from the time she was born she was outcast by her family and the other gods. They saw her as strange, and only once she was alone on her own island did she start to see it as actually a sanctuary where she could practice her magical powers, including making potions using plants. This book overlaps with quite a few Greek myths, which you'll appreciate if you know them and enjoy them like I do. This book explores a lot of things in a beautiful and deep way, including being an outcast, being a woman with power, the natural world, witchcraft of course, and goes very deep into character dynamics. If I could wipe my brain and read this again, I would. Next, I have 3 books all set in Italy. They are not a series, I'm just letting you know ahead of time. The first is the Book of Secrets, set in Rome in the 1600s. We see Rome months after the plague has ravaged the city, and how members of the church are asked to seek out what happened. We meet the group of women working as healers and midwives, and also telling fortunes. But what happens when the church cross paths with these so-called witches? Our next setting is a different Italian city. It is the Stone Witch of Florence, this time set in the 1300s. A woman's secret, a deadly plague. Unleash the forbidden magic. In this story, the main character is a stone witch. She can harness magic through gemstones. Lastly, of the Italians, we have The Wolves in Winter. Alchemy, poison, intrigue in the court of Medici. 5-year-old Mura is a strange and bewitching child, but when her widower father is taken by the Inquisition, Mura is sold to a slaver. She is bought as a house slave for the powerful Medici, arriving in Florence as the city prepares for war against the French. When the family are forced to flee, Mura finds herself gifted to the notorious Lioness of Romagna, and Mura becomes a potent weapon in the Machiavellian intrigues of the Renaissance court. Next up, we have Wayward by Amelia Hart, which actually has 3 different timelines, weaving together the stories of 3 women across 5 centuries. Wayward is an enthralling novel of female resilience and the transformative power of the natural world. Its 3 main characters that we meet are Kate in 2019, Violet in the 1940s, and Alpha in the 1600s. It's about womanhood and female resilience in the face of attempts to tame these women who are wild at heart. Next, we have a book by Anna Bergman, and it is The Witches of Vardø, which has beautiful colours and font on it too. Norway, 1662, a dangerous time to be a woman when even dancing can lead to accusations of witchcraft. I feel like this is going to have multiple points of view because we already on the blurb have 4 different women mentioned and their relations to actual witchcraft or people in power. For example, the King of Denmark's mistress. These witches of Vardø are stronger than even the king. In an age weighted against them, they refuse to be victims. They will have their justice. All they need to do is show their power. The Witches at the End of the World is also set in Norway, so there's something going on. Straight away, we've got the tension between one of the sisters who would stifle her magic in order to have a community and friends and fit in with society, compared to her sister, who is a witch through and through and would do nothing to get rid of or diminish her own powers. But they've clearly been persecuted and have some trauma because their mother was burned as a witch. And the sister, who is a witch through and through, wants justice or revenge. On the back it says, "Rage burns brighter than any spellfire, and someone will have to burn." A book that I haven't seen mentioned much is Lolly Willows, which was a book published 100 years ago about a woman called Lolly who rejects society and goes off into the wilderness. She rejects all that society is telling her she should be or should do, and breaks away from her controlling family to live freely with nature. We get elements of the supernatural and the strange in this quiet and subversive tale of a woman's escape, with a bit of social commentary as well as magical realism. I haven't read this yet, but I feel like it would be, if the language isn't too tricky, that it would be really great. Next, we have a historical that is also a slow burn gothic romance, The Witch of Willow Hall by Hester Fox. A creepy estate, juicy scandal, family secrets, ghosts, and a handsome yet mysterious suitor. And it says 2 centuries after the Salem witch trials, there's still one witch left in Massachusetts, but she doesn't even know it yet. A little bit haunted house, a little bit gothic, a little bit Gossip Girl level scandal maybe, and a lot of witchiness. This next one by Alex E. Harrow is a little charmed coded because it is about 3 sisters. This is the Once and Future Witches, set in the 1800s when witches are not meant to exist anymore. This book features the 3 sisters becoming suffragists, but also linking it back to their family's history as witches too, and is about female power, revolution, sapphic love, motherhood, and women's suffrage through the ages. Understandably, a lot of these historical books feature the hardships that women have had to go through historically and presently, but especially with lack of knowledge in the past about women's medical knowledge, for example, which I think is really interesting. Lucky last, we have some witchy adjacent books, which aren't strictly witch books, but have a witchy feel or witchy elements to them. First, we have The Book and the Nightingale, which is the first in a trilogy. This I read last year. We meet all the characters in this family in remote medieval Russia. It is more like a family saga across a long period of time. And about a third of the way through, we meet the daughter who grows up as the rebel child. This book explores the tension between this character's affinity for the natural world and the spirits from Russian folklore against the looming doctrine of the church that then infiltrates this remote village. There's also like a magical prince kind of character and a bit of mystery about this evil ancient character. There's a lot going on in this book. I think it errs almost a bit more on historical high fantasy, but it's not really high fantasy. Though I enjoyed it, I'm not sure if I'll continue this series because it wasn't quite what I was looking for. If you read this, be prepared to meet quite a few different characters and you see their different motivations and how they interact with each other. But it is set across a decent amount of time with quite a bit of backstory about the family. The main character that we meet can communicate with animals and talks to little spirits who no one else can see. She's a really fun character. Next, we have The Square of Sevens, which starts in Cornwall with a historical setting about a young girl who travels from village to village with her fortune-telling father. There's a certain kind of magic system of using the cards, which is known as the Square of Sevens. We have some family dynamics, mystery and secrecy, and the threats of great danger as well as great reward for these fortune-telling abilities. She thick. But I've had a few friends who've read this who rave about it. So here we have another Juliet Marillier, and this one is The Amber Owl. This book is the first in a series or a duology, I'm not sure, with the next book coming out next year in 2026. It's giving me Russian vibes again because it's about a young girl called Stasia who lives in an isolated farming village. She's an outcast from her little village, but her forest, which she loves, is under threat by soldiers who invade the area. They're on a treasure hunt and they're going to destroy the forest in pursuit of this treasure. And Stasia ain't happy about it. Understandably so. It's giving mine from Pocahontas. This book I have not read, but I've literally had for over a decade, and it is The Diviners by Libba Bray. Set in 1920s New York, about a girl with supernatural powers who is off to find a serial killer. Mystical, slightly horror, and maybe also featuring demons and ghosts. One of my friends has read this and loves it. Then we've got a slightly different Witchy Adjacent, which is a very cute graphic novel series called The Tea Dragon Society. There are tiny dragons that the characters need to look after, and they grow little leaves which then get plucked and turned into tea with special magical abilities. Very much potion making, potion brewing. There are 3 books in the series and they are all very light-hearted and uplifting while also not shying away from deeper and darker themes, with bits of action in it too. This rates very highly on the found family aspect. I've read all 3 of these and would definitely reread them again and recommend them to other people, and the artworks are beautiful. Beautiful colours, lots of natural elements. Another witchy adjacent book, more mystery centered, is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, a historical fiction about a condemned woman's search for truth and her ache to be heard. Set against Iceland's stark landscape, Hannah Kent brings to vivid life the story of Agnes, who, charged with the brutal murder of her former master, is sent to an isolated farm to await execution. At first, the family avoids Agnes, but then a priest is chosen to be her spiritual guardian, I guess, saving her soul. And slowly the family starts to realize that there's another side to the story that they've been told about this supposed rebellious, evil woman. Next is the first in a series, and it is Children of Blood and Bone. This is a young adult fantasy. They killed my mother, they took our magic. They tried to bury us. Now we rise. Magic was part of this society until it disappeared or was taken. The blurb talks a bit about reapers taking magic and souls, and it's giving a bit of K-pop Demon Hunters, but not. Vengeful spirits, dangerous magic, and growing feelings for an enemy. Sky Song by C.A. Wright is a book about a woman who also turns into a bird. Similar to the Swan Princess or Swan Lake. She calls the dawn with her song, but she's also lonely and craves her own freedom because she's treated like both a goddess and a prisoner by the royals, and she just yearns to have her simple life back. But then she finds out she's not the only one like that, and there is another one called The Nightingale. The next book is a retelling of Lady Macbeth, and it is called Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I did not love this book. At first, the writing feels very lush and dark and tainted by the main character's experience of the world as a woman in ye olden times, but then it kind of lost its magic for me, and the plot was a bit all over the place. In this retelling, she is not a manipulative, cunning, power-hungry character anymore in terms of using actual intelligence and manipulation to get her way. In this story, as if cursed by a witch, she can control men with her beautiful gaze. But then she's not actually very manipulative. I've heard a lot of people who love Shakespeare say this was a character assassination in a way. My qualm more was with the writing style and the pacing and the fact we have a random dragon thrown in there too and a random romance. It just was a bit messy to me. But it might be up some other people's alleys, especially if you like Ava Reid's other stuff. Maybe you'll enjoy this one too. Next is the book Queens and Morai, which is a story of the Fates from Greek mythology, who are the equivalent of the Grim Reaper, basically, in this story. But this is more folklore and taking liberties than straight up from mythology, of course. I'm losing my puff, so I'm gonna quickfire these last few, which are Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Dark academia meets fantasy, featuring intricate magic systems. And social critique, especially about erased histories of certain groups. Raybearer, which is a young adult fantasy. We've got found family, some queer magic, and tension between different moral choices that one can make, or moral versus immoral. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, who wrote the Shepherd King duology. This one's meant to be another dark gothic fantasy. The woman in the story who's both a prophet and a knight. Destiny, desire, adventure, and mysterious magic. Our last one is a short story from the Shady Hollow series. This can be read as a standalone. I've read Phantom Pond and really loved it. It's very atmospheric and cutesy, like vintage Halloween feels in a woodland setting with woodland animals as the main characters. Like Beatrix Potter, Agatha Christie, and Gilmore Girls all rolled into one. A character goes missing from the Halloween autumn festival. They think that she has been taken by the local fabled witch. And that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more bookish content from me, and comment if you've read any of these, have other recommendations, or if you want to read any of these, because I really think that I found at least something for everyone, no matter what kind of reader you are. Wishing you a happy spooky season, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.